Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a podcast about offensive jokes. Can comedy cross the line? Who's to judge? And what should the consequences be? Offensive jokes are a hard to define concept, and what is fine to some is offensive to others. And of course, how we define that line and where does our freedom of speech end? My name is Angelo, and I'm joined by Theo. Theo
Thanks for having me.
risked his life a few years ago when he decided to take my class on stand-up comedy, and we had a show at the end with other comedians. We did our set. There was some laughs. People were laughing at you, Theo, or you think we were laughing with you?
That's the question.
And basically we tried to be comedians for a night, but of course a joke out of context can ruin your life. The internet can turn on you and bring you down, make you lose your job. First you have to get a job, and then make you lose your job. Are you worried about being a comedian?
So far my comedy hasn't gotten me famous enough to be worried about losing my job.
Baby steps.
I lost my jobs for other reasons, almost, and then in the end didn't lose it. So for now I'm optimistic.
You're still optimistic. So what we have agreed on this program today is that we brought some jokes that people have considered offensive, and we would like to share with you our thoughts on who are the targets of the jokes, why people think it's offensive, and do we think it's offensive, in which way. And we will start with Dave Chappelle. Dave Chappelle is, of course, a very controversial comedian who says what he thinks. There's so many things we could have pulled up on Dave Chappelle.
Every second joke
tickles some people the wrong way. But essentially we went with a line that he has taken a strong stance, and this joke is called "Gender is a Fact." So let's hear what Dave Chappelle has said about this, and then let's have some thoughts on it.
Gender is a fact. This is a fact. Every human being in this room, every human being on earth had to pass through the legs of a woman to be on earth. That is a fact. Now, I am not saying that to say that trans women aren't women. I am just saying that those pussies that they got, you know what I mean? I'm not saying it's not pussy, but that's like beyond pussy or impossible pussy. You know what I mean? It tastes like pussy, but that's not quite what it is it? It's not blood, that's beet juice.
All right, he got a bit of a mixed reaction from the audience. There was some people booing there. Did you hear?
Oh.
Yes. All right, so let's break down what has been said in this moment, in this 1 minute of Dave Chappelle about gender is a fact, and every human being had to go through a woman's vagina to be born. What is the joke here, Theo? What is he joking about, and what is the target of the joke, right? So he can punchline it.
Yeah. So the target of the joke, of course, is trans people or also non-binary people. The whole gender debate, pretty much, which he basically is denying the right to existence because of the fact that trans women don't go through period, childbirth, all that. Which, yeah, he has a point. It's definitely a different experience from a born woman.
So you're referring to being a biological woman from birth?
Yes.
Or identifying as one?
Yes.
The difference. And maybe he's poking fun at that. But do you think, because he keeps bringing it back to, and I'm not saying trans women are not women, so he kind of trying to avoid controversy? That doesn't sound like him. Or is he trying to clarify that his punchline is not to make fun at trans people, but it's about something else? And what is this something else?
It's a good question.
So what I very often feel that when a certain group of people feel offended, they feel like the target of a joke, right? And then it's fair enough to say, okay, is Dave Chappelle making fun of those people and making a ridicule of them, and because he disagrees with whatever they stand for? Or is he trying to do something else? Because if we don't explore all these other options, then maybe we can simply cancel him and support cancel culture. Is this fair? So I was trying to be a little more open-minded and think, is he making fun of trans people, or is he actually opening up a discussion on the definition of these concepts? Because it seems like a lot of people have difficulty defining some of these concepts, and maybe that's what he's after, right? Of course, he then makes a comparison when he's saying, when he's referring to the genitalia of trans people, trans women, saying that's like Beyond Burger. If you don't know, Beyond Burger is a vegetarian burger that looks like a real burger, but it's not. So you're basically, it looks like it, but it's not. So in the end, he doesn't really buy it.
It's not real meat.
It's not real meat. That's kind of what he's saying. But does that matter? No, because I guess we still buy Beyond Burger, and I have Beyond Burger in my freezer at this moment, and I eat it, and I don't even think it's real meat or not. That's just the future. We live in the future, and we eat vegetarian burgers that look like real burgers. But maybe the definition of a Beyond Burger is, obviously, it's not meat. It doesn't matter what the Beyond Burger identifies with.
Beyond meat. It's
Beyond
next level meat.
Yeah. So maybe that's where he is trying to poke fun. It's in how people define or not define, or agree or don't agree. And maybe that discussion is useful. Maybe we'll learn something from it. Maybe we'll learn that he's very old school, who doesn't modernize the way of thinking, and acknowledge that a lot of people have suffered for years without being themselves. Or maybe he's pointing out that we need to keep talking about these things, to keep learning and clarifying and understanding. And he clearly feels like there is a difference between a biological woman and someone who identifies as a woman later in life. So is that difference important, relevant?
No.
Yeah. So maybe those are some of the things we can take from this joke, if we can get past the offensiveness that some groups of people might have felt.
Because the whole debate is so much about these labels that we give things, that it's easy to forget that there are still these slight differences that can also affect everyday life, and actually worry people when it comes to topics like toilets. Even in that community, there's women that are worried about trans women. There's a lot to discuss about. Maybe it's actually good to open this up with a topic, up with a joke.
Yeah, jokes lowers your defense, and
Exactly.
in theory allows you to think a little more freely about things and discuss them. But of course, if you're from the beginning planned to be attacked, then you will not lower your defenses. But let's see a follow-up joke from Dave Chappelle. This is one of the ones you chose, and it's about a specific study case, if you want to put it like that.
Caitlyn Jenner, whom I've met, wonderful person. Caitlyn Jenner was voted Woman of the Year. Her first year as a woman. Ain't that something? Beat every bitch in Detroit. She's better than all of you. Never even had a period. Ain't that something? Oh, I'd be mad as shit if I was a woman. I'd be mad if I was me. If I was in a BET Awards sitting there and they're like, and the winner for Nigger of the Year, Eminem, my man.
All right. So he continues on his, you could say, on his target of the joke being transgender people with a specific person in mind, Caitlyn Jenner, who obviously is very famous, not because of the transition, but from before. I actually had never heard of this person before when it was the Kardashian show, because I never watched that show.
Yeah.
But when I researched, I read about Olympic medals and so on, and career in sports, and I was like, wow, I had no idea, right? So there's a much bigger history with this person than just a transition into a trans woman.
Yeah.
So what is Dave Chappelle doing in this particular example?
Yeah, I think this is also, again, this is first of all about the topic transgender people, transgender women in particular, but I think what he's really also making fun of is kind of pop culture, like fame, these big awards, Woman of the Year. What makes you the Woman of a Year, and are you, what does that award really say? Can you say this is the best, most hardworking, or what's other traits of the Woman of the Year? Is this woman better than a woman who works her ass off, a woman who is a good mother?
Yeah, I guess awards shine a light on someone who has done something outstanding, and maybe people who award these titles, right? They want to bring attention to something and decided to bring attention to transgender rights and kind of what these people go through to be accepted in society, and fair enough, right? So what Dave Chappelle is, I guess, pointing out is that it's kind of interesting for other women who have been women their whole lives and maybe would like to be distinguished for something also. And then the award itself maybe changes the meaning, because it's not about the life of a woman or like the achievements or how they stand out in society. It's about, maybe in this case, someone who is brave enough to identify as a woman, and that could be the beginning of many other people finding themselves, their identity, their happiness. So in a way, he's trying to be a little more narrow-minded about the meaning of the award, and I guess awards in general. They're supposed to award something. But of course, if we expand the meaning of what is to be a woman in today's world, right, then there's going to be other sectors, other competitions where that will be problematic, right? And it's already being problematic with a lot of sports institutions banning trans athletes from competing against women, right? So maybe he has a point in which we can't just redefine the meaning of an award because we are trying to promote another cause, right? Because all the other participants were counting on, I don't know, it's to distinguish women who have been women throughout their lives trying to do something in a man's world. And maybe, I don't know, it's kind of unfair to them to change the meaning of that award. But what is Dave Chappelle trying to do by provoking and by making us talk about this? Do you feel like you learn something? Do you feel like you mature yourself in these topics when you're provoked by someone like Dave Chappelle?
Yeah, it definitely makes you think about these topics in a different way. If something is put in a joke, and you catch yourself laughing at something that you would have first think, oh, I actually have an opinion on this topic. But then you suddenly laugh about it, or you see, on the other hand, you can't laugh about something where you see everyone else laughing about it. That will really make you think, what did I not get about this topic maybe? What do I have to change about my state of mind?
Yeah, I guess I'm always interested in understanding people's perspectives and what they're going through. And if I don't understand, of course, comedy is a good way to get into it, even if I might feel bad for laughing about it. But then I actually question myself. What do I know and what would I like to know? So I guess keeping a conversation going, it's better than just preventing people from speaking and not opening up the topic, right? So maybe that's one of the negatives of cancel culture is that you're not having a conversation, you're not learning, right? You're just oppressing those who don't think like you. But let's move on to another provocateur. Ricky Gervais is also known for putting the finger on the wound. And when we talk about the limits of comedy, do you find there's a limit for you, Theo, where you wouldn't craft jokes about a certain topic?
I think, first of all, stand-up comedy in general has no border. It's really up to the comedian what they want to make jokes about it, and then they already know that no matter what they talk about, not everyone will like it, and there will also always be some kind of backlash. I usually a bit more careful with what I'm saying. Try to be careful at least, so I don't hurt people. But on the other hand side, when I feel like I might make someone think about something, I try to at least get a bit more in there, make people think about something.
In Germany, are there laws about making jokes, for example, about the Holocaust?
You're not allowed to deny the Holocaust.
Okay, so if the joke would imply a denial of the Holocaust, that could be problematic.
If it would really imply that that's what you're thinking, yes, you could, of course, make a joke about people denying the Holocaust, and
because then you're making fun of them. Right?
Exactly. No.
All right. So I was just wondering because, of course, there are some laws in different countries that prevent you from making fun of politicians, for example. So I was wondering if that was one of the topics.
Actually,
but yeah.
Something like that actually happens. There, not in Germany, but German comedians got in trouble for making fun of politicians in other countries.
Oh.
Got sued, almost had to go to prison.
Was that the Turkey case?
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So there are limits to comedy in some countries, and it's defined by the law, which is interesting. But we're not discussing that now. We're going to go into Ricky Gervais trying to push those limits, and let's see what kind of jokes he crafts and what's his topic.
This is my second night in New York. I did a few gigs in Los Angeles, but a lot of those we donated the money to the American Cancer Society. So this is better because I keep all the money. So, but we did raise thousands of dollars or hundreds of pounds, whichever way. What's it like being a third world country? Oh dear. I know what you're thinking straight away. Ricky Gervais, are you still doing stuff for charity? Shut up. No, don't. What? I do too much. No, I don't. What? How much did I raise for cancer alone last year? It doesn't matter. Why is it? What? Give us a ballpark figure.
So far, nothing too bad, right? He's obviously talking about donations for cancer and the charity shows, but the target of his joke has been the US citizens and their declining value of the currency. Let's see if this evolves into a more targeted in the topic of cancer.
Millions. Millions. And they are welcome to it. But I will say this, if I ever get cancer myself, I'm going to walk into the nearest hospital and go, right, I paid for that machine. Get that little bald fucker off it. Talking of little bald fuckers, I did the teenage cancer gig last year. What? At the Royal Albert Hall. I'd done it before, I did it in 2006, but they called again last year. We're still ill. Fucking hell. You lasted. No, it's a great gig, and the teenagers with cancer getting free and everything. That's the sort of guy I am. And they sit in the front row. Oh, lucky little... And they get to come backstage afterwards and meet me. What a treat that is for them. So much better than going to Disney World, where the rides can make you sick if you're in that state. So meeting me, it's thumbs up. So... And I was doing the gig this last time, and I looked down and I recognised one of them. I thought, oh yeah, he came backstage 2 years ago. He was telling me about his illness, and I signed some stuff for him, and he said, oh, he just turned 18 and how hard it was. And I was thinking, well, that was 2 years ago, so now he must be 20. So how the fuck is he still a teenager? Lying little shit. He wasn't lying about the cancer. He was riddled with it. It hurt him to laugh, but he shouldn't... So I was doing the gig, and he was laughing along, and I thought, yeah, you laugh it up, mate. I was fuming. And it got too much for me, and I went, all right, mate, I recognise you. He went, you came backstage 2 years ago. I went, yeah. You said you're 18. He went, yeah, so you're 20 now. He went, yeah. I said, get out. And I...
So it's he went where no person dares to go. He's making jokes about young people, kids, technically, if you're under 18, with cancer. No one dares to go cross that line. That's a clear line, right?
No.
You don't make jokes about kids with cancer. What do you think, Theo? What is your first feeling when you hear Ricky Gervais making people laugh by making fun of people with cancer?
Yeah, I definitely was holding back some loss there. The jokes are funny, and then you're like, oh, it's about kids with cancer. Ooh.
Do you feel if you laugh, you feel wrong? You feel like you're crossing the line for laughing?
Yeah.
So I guess in his show, he has already like got everyone in a certain mood that, and you know, Ricky Gervais will talk about anything, right? Mm-hmm. And he's not seriously trying to hurt the feelings of kids with cancer, right? Mm-hmm. He starts by saying he's all this charitable person. He raises millions for these charities, so it's important to him, obviously.
And he did make this show for
so
kids with
his
cancer
actions say one thing, but then he verbally says another thing. So he implies that he actually thinks little of them, and they're just annoying him, and he's making fun of them for being bald because of obviously chemotherapy has a side effect of losing your hair, which is terrible. I mean, chemotherapy is terrible, but on the other hand, is also great that we can try to deal with cancer, right? That we have something to deal with it. We don't just like accept it. But his whole attitude, he's building a persona of like this guy who doesn't care and treats them like anybody else. Isn't that refreshing? That we are not tiptoeing around people with cancer as if they are disabled and let's never talk about them and sweep them under the rug. And he's treating them like anybody else. He's making fun of them like anybody else. I mean, I'm finding a hard time laughing about it. But on the other hand, I'm like impressed, right? They are like us. They are people. They just happen to have a horrible, unfair sickness, and they are very young. They haven't like fully enjoyed their life, right?
Yeah.
But will they laugh about it, or will they be offended and upset with Ricky, right?
Yeah, it's I mean, if there were not any jokes about kids with cancer, that could also be some kind of discrimination.
In the world of comedy, we are discriminating kids with cancer. We don't joke about them.
No, yeah. So he does bring this topic up, and he does something for them, and he also brings the topic up in general. Maybe that can actually raise awareness, make people think about and act upon this topic more.
Yeah, it is also posing the question, can we laugh about this, right? Yeah. Because I really feel the contradiction is interesting, because he does seem genuinely interested in helping because he makes the shows and raises the money and, treats them like people.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, they are the target of the joke. So he's laughing at their expense. So it's really a conflicting feeling that I get from listening to these jokes. But on the other hand, if you have listened more and more to Ricky, you realize that he has deeper meanings in many of his jokes. For example, obviously he's an atheist who doesn't believe in God, and one of the reasons is, how can you explain kids with cancer?
Yeah.
Right. So it's interesting that he uses children with cancer as a way to refute the existence of God. God cannot be benevolent if there are children with cancer, which is I think it's funny. It's a funny argument, right? Because obviously it's really hard to justify how this is fair, how this is possible if there is a all benevolent God. So Ricky really pushes the boundaries, and it works. From what we see, his shows are fully booked and people laugh. Let's move on to another guy who gets some heat every time he speaks, and his name is Bill Burr, and this is a joke that you picked up. Let's see what is he talking about. So this is when Bill Burr gave an interview to Conan O'Brien on TBS, and he's talking about some other joke that got him in trouble.
You did a show in Reno this weekend, I understand.
Yes, I did.
Okay, how did it go?
It went great. It was just, a big show. Everything went great. And then one person, I was making fun of the military, which you can't do now. Like, we totally went from Vietnam, all the hippies being like, hey, man, you're like a baby killer, man, to like now you got to give like a standing ovation when they walk over to Delta. You know what I mean? Show that you're not in ISIS. Like, I don't know what you have to be doing. Like, thank you. So I do this bit making fun of the military a little bit. And the first time I did it at a VFW to make sure that it was funny in the right way. And it killed. It was even a dude, he lost his legs. He almost fell out of his chair, dying laughing, going, dude, that is so true.
So you got approval from
them.
veterans.
So then I'm doing it in front of regular people, you know what I mean? So the second everybody has a good time with it except one person. He came all the way up to the front and just didn't even heckle, just started yelling. He said, hey, show some respect. He starts yelling at me like he's my dad, right? So he's like 100 pounds overweight. I'm like, why don't you show some respect and lose a little weight? Next time you have the middle seat on a flight, you won't be spilling over onto your fellow Americans. No, I know, that's off limits, because now fat people are heroes. Everybody is a hero now.
Everyone's a hero.
No, I'm gonna tell you what about fat people. Your organs are not giving you a standing ovation as you walk over to the refrigerator again. What you're doing is dangerous. You got children, lay off the ice cream. It's so brave to be out of that, so whatever. So that guy, oh, God. I was so upset that security, escorted him out. I wanted to talk. I started my show blaming women for sexual harassment. That's how I started it. Yes, it was absurd. I wasn't being serious, you children. This is the worst time ever.
I have to now move my chair away from you.
I know, because then all of a sudden, Dude, it's literally...
It's tough times right now.
As a comedian, it's like the walls. It's like you're in this walk-in closet of what can be funny. And meanwhile, there's like a swirl of trash with every toothbrush he ever used spinning around the Pacific Ocean. Nobody cares. God forbid you tease the Navy a little bit, and people have like a conniption.
Well, what did you say about the military that got people so mad? Or this one guy's...
Finally, we'll get to it.
Yeah, the guy who flies the fighter jet, okay, and has missiles shot at him, that guy's a hero. However, if you're the guy that, points in the direction that the plane takes off in... You know what I mean? We're kind of watering down what is heroic behavior.
You don't think that guy, the guy who points in the direction is...
Yeah, the guy doing Warrior One, the yoga pose. The battlefield is that way. No, but everything has just become that. It's just become like this,
right.
That whole first responder thing, all these code words you have to say. It's so stupid. I'm a first responder. I love that one. It's like, dude, I called you. I saw the fire. What am I? What do you have, ESP? We just want to thank our first responders, and just everything has just become...
All right, Theo.
Yeah.
He took a few left turns here, right? It was not just about the military.
Yeah. No, there were several things here. At first, he talked about someone who disturbed his show.
A heckler, yeah.
A heckler, yes. And of course, you don't like people disturbing your show. You want to make them shut up somehow. So then he took the offensive way, just going directly at this guy's weight.
Mhm.
Yeah, blaming him for
For being fat.
being fat. Yeah.
Yeah.
Show some respect to other people. You being fat hurts other people.
Which, to be fair, is a weak joke, because attacking people on their looks it's kind of like a level one of creating
Yeah.
jokes, right?
Yeah.
If you attack them on their views, on their ideas, on who they are and what they did, it's a little more elaborate, right?
Yeah.
Just because someone looks in a certain way, that he was really like in the moment coming up with something.
Exactly. Yeah. Which of course he didn't know anything else about this guy, so but yeah. He chose to make this kind of joke about him, and yeah, but then what he really talks about is political correctness in general, and the importance of political correctness in contrast to topics like climate change and the ending of the world, with potential wars, everything that's happening. If this is he's basically making fun of people pet peeving over little things, when there's so many bigger problems that you could deal with. So is it does that mean we should not care about political correctness anymore? Does it mean people who care about that don't care about big topics? Or
Actually, when I think about the joke about the heckler, he was attacking the heckler.
Yeah.
Technically, he's working, and if people are preventing you from work, that can get you on your, your darker side. So he's just trying to get rid of it. And there are some comedians that specialize in crowd kind of not I would say roasting, right? People go to the shows because they're expecting to be roasted on their looks, on their jobs, whatever, and comedians interact, and that's kind of the whole point. So it's nothing new. It's a joke that it was a bit surprising, right? He just attacked the guy for being fat. He obviously had some jokes about fat people, but as hurtful as it can feel for in general, if you feel like you're overweight and you also identify with that, it's a heckler, right? And you just want them to stop and get out or be kicked out because you're trying to do your job. You're trying to make people laugh. And if they disagree with you, they're missing the point, right? This is not a conversation. This is a kind of a monologue. And if you don't laugh, then that's how you show your disagreement. If the others are laughing, then why are you interrupting the show? I guess kind of that's the point, without getting too much into is he being offensive to fat people or not, right? Because obviously he is, right? And then the military joke, and I was just thinking about how easy it is to break it down, because he was saying that people who fly on those jets and go and shoot and whatever, fight in the war, are considered heroes. And then the guy who actually helps the planes land or depart and whatever, who's just using the arms to point, they're not considered heroes, right? And it's interesting because it brings attention to those people who also put an effort and do their job and do their best, and they exist, right?
Yeah.
But on the other hand, if we just use the simple comparison of how much in danger your life is, obviously the people helping land planes are not as in much danger as those flying them. So that's why some are considered heroes and others are not. But that's just boring, analyzing jokes like that, right? He's just trying to bring some light on everybody. So contributing to a greater goal should be given some praise. And I guess his whole act, it's about provoking and then talking about how people react to his provocations, right? That's what he does. So I guess we learn from that also on how in life we can manage or deal with when we cross the line, and maybe we can apologize. Oh, sorry, I crossed the line. Or we can also like go further into the topic and say, did we learn something from this? Is this like a taboo? Should we not talk about it? And I could see that Conan was kind of uncomfortable in this interview because he was like, I don't want to like support this, but I want to keep it going. I want to see where this goes. So it was kind of an awkward situation for an interviewer to be to basically let Bill Burr go over and over his things. Alrighty, so I'm gonna bring up one more joke that we don't have an audio file, but I'll just bring it up because I would like to hear your opinion. And it's about a man called Mark Meechan, who was 30 at the time, and he wanted to play a prank on his girlfriend. His girlfriend was obsessed with her dog. It was a small pug. If you don't know how a pug looks like, it looks like a normal dog who crashed into a wall, and then his face got completely flat, and they're very small, and maybe they think they are big, but they're small and kind of weird. And then he decided to try and teach the pug something horrible to really surprise the girlfriend and make her kind of lose respect for the dog. So what he do? He made a video where he was showing all the new tricks he taught the dog, and every time he would say, "Guess the juice." You heard me correctly. Guess the juice, and he said it like 30 times. The dog would get excited. So he taught the dog to get excited every time he would say, "Guess the juice." And then when he would say "Sieg Heil," the dog would lift the paw, kind of as in a in a salute, in a Nazi salute.
Okay.
So that's what he thought it was funny. And then when he published that video, there was a huge backlash, and he was put in. He was in court for this, and he was fined. He actually was considered guilty for being offensive, and was fined £800. I don't know what that means. It's just a slap on the wrist, or is this meant to dissuade other people from making jokes like this? So what do you think of what this guy tried to do with his girlfriend's pug and sharing it with the world?
Yeah, I mean, of course, this could be some kind of meta joke about actual neo-Nazis, about Nazis back at the day who said these things, did these horrible things. I personally wouldn't find it funny. Of course, it is funny if a dog can react to something, but there are so many things you could make it react to. Yeah.
Well, can you think of a more horrible thing to train a dog to do if you want to like piss off your girlfriend?
I mean, action-wise, you could train the dog to bite someone or do something. But when it comes to comedy, I couldn't think of many much more tasteless jokes. No.
Because obviously he was sued by Jewish organizations in the UK. Yeah. This is a guy from the UK who has been in the courts for a while dealing with this. And one of the most surprising things that came out on the ruling of the judge was that context doesn't matter. His joke was offensive. Was it hate speech? I guess every country has a different definition of what that means or how they approach it. But what I thought was interesting is that clearly the target of his joke was not the victims of the, in history of the Nazis. It was not, in fact, if he was making his dog behave like a Nazi, right, it was to ridicularise the Nazis. Because, I mean,
they are like dogs doing what you...
This dog is just, to be fair, a pug is cute, but it's also a ridiculous dog. It's not like a German Shepherd who inspires, who intimidates, you know. It's a little cute, little, you know, loaf of bread. And he just made this cute dog into a horrible Nazi dog. And then, I don't know, whenever I show this video to people, which is quite a long and disturbing video of how many times he says gas the Jews, people laugh in those first 2 minutes. They laugh, and then they get a bit of exhaustion from hearing it, and they start feeling awkward and bad. But I'm trying to think of something really horrible and really inappropriate and really bad to teach a dog, and I can kind of understand why he would think that, right? Maybe where he went too far was sharing that video online, right?
Yeah.
Just sharing it with the girlfriend would have been enough, right? But should he be censored? Should he have to pay a fine for doing so, right?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm biased on this being German. We are this is for most of us a very sensitive topic.
He's definitely not denying, right?
Yeah.
So technically, he's not against
Yeah.
that German law.
Yeah, I don't think he is supporting actual neo-Nazis with that. It is very possible that neo-Nazis found this video funny too and sent it through their group chats, even though the joke they would get from it is maybe a different one than what he actually intended and how he wanted to
I
make
don't
this
think he
reference
was trying to sympathize with neo-Nazis, and if they think this is hilarious and they're sharing it with all their friends, I think they are clearly missing the point, right?
Yeah.
Because he's making fun of being having these kind of ideologies and supporting it. Otherwise, he wouldn't have chosen that little dog, right? It's the idea or the reading that people do and the actual fact. It's in contradiction in that case. But that's a pretty crazy case that I thought it would be interesting to bring here, because it is an offensive joke for many people, and that's why he got a fine. But what we learned from it, that's always what is interesting. So we have a final joke here that you chose.
Yeah.
It's from Anthony Jeselnik, and let's hear what is he talking. This is from the Netflix show Thoughts and Prayers.
Now, I'm sure everyone here has told a joke before where nobody laughed at it. It's fine. It's embarrassing, but it's fun. You can laugh at yourself. It's not a reason to stop telling jokes. Maybe some of you have told a joke before where someone got mad at you for it. Trust me, that's fun too. You guys ever tell a joke and then get death threats? Well, I guess that's what makes me me. On my television show, I once did a segment that aired once and only once before it was banned, called Shark Party. All right? Now, some of you enjoyed it, but if you have never seen Shark Party, you can never see Shark Party. It's been wiped off the face of the earth by the powers that be. So I will explain it to you.
Actually, that's not true, because we just watched it on YouTube. You can easily find it on YouTube. Someone saved it and published it, and probably is on several channels. But just before he explains the Shark Party joke, it's interesting how he builds up the joke, right? He's pointing out, can the outcome of a bad joke or whatever a joke you disagree with, can the outcome be threats to your life, right? Can that be an outcome? Is that fair? Is that how it should be, right? Because I guess countries have laws for a reason, so you don't have to go into that. You just prosecute people who have broken the law. But if there's freedom of speech, why would you receive death threats, right?
Yeah.
So it's almost like the joke is not in the wrong, it's the reaction to the joke that is in the wrong. But let's hear more about the joke.
I love sharks. I love sharks more than anything. People I can barely fucking tolerate. Every single year, 100 million sharks are killed by human beings. Every year, 25 people killed by sharks. So whenever I hear about a shark attack, I'm like, fuck yeah. Win one for the home team. So as soon as I get this TV show where I can do whatever I want, I say, you know what? I want to have a shark party. As soon as there's a shark attack, we're having a shark party. And I get lucky. About a month into my run, this guy from New Zealand gets eaten by a great white shark, the champagne of sharks. And I know exactly what to do. I've already got the script written. I walk out on stage, in front of the cameras, I say, ladies and gentlemen, this guy from New Zealand has been eaten by a great white shark. It's time for a shark party. Lights go down, music comes up. 6 women wearing shark dresses come out on either side of me, and we all start dancing for way too long. A stripper wearing a giant shark head runs out and gives me a lap dance. Very tasteful. And then I stand up and we show a giant picture of the guy who got eaten, which in retrospect is where it all went wrong. But I get to say my favorite thing I've ever said on television. Smile, you son of a bitch. Shark party.
Alrighty. So Anthony, he's going wild with his obsession with sharks. Tail, what do you think of this joke and the backlash that it got?
Yeah. It's true that sharks are more way more targeted, way more being killed.
They have a bad rap.
Yeah.
When in reality it's not, doesn't match statistics.
Exactly. And that still doesn't mean that a shark life has the same value as a human life.
But sharks don't get offended, right? Obviously, the people who got offended was the family of the guy who died. Also,
Yeah.
the guy who died doesn't get offended because he's not alive. So how do we digest the fact that he's making fun of someone who died recently, and the family is watching?
Yeah. Actually, the death threats came from all kinds of people. Apparently, not only the family. And a death threat is definitely a very exaggerated response to this. I do see how you can get upset about your family member, that family member being joked about. But of course, if you want to make bring this topic up, you will have to choose someone. This is it's a very tasteless thing.
Yeah.
He says this by himself.
I think there's no discussion in that.
Yeah.
But if it works, it works. If people laugh,
Yeah.
then he doesn't care. He's the kind of comedian who doesn't mind, crafting a joke on someone
Yeah.
who just died.
Yeah. And he's desperately trying to get laughs there.
But it's interesting that he then reuses the joke, and by analyzing it, he still makes people laugh.
Yeah.
Right? And now we are analyzing his analysis.
Yeah.
So we are trying to get something out of it.
Yeah.
So I was actually thinking how this joke is very, very true to the format of comedy. So have you ever heard the expression comedy is tragedy plus distance? And distance means could literally be how far you live from a tragedy that has happened, or distance in time, right? It has happened a long time ago, so now we can make fun of it.
Yeah.
Right? If I make a joke about the Titanic and the people who died in the Titanic, who's gonna get offended, right? It happened happened 100 years ago.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of distance to that tragedy, so now we can make comedy about it. But if a man just died, like within a month, and his family is still grieving, and we can kind of have that empathy for someone who's grieving a family member, and he's making that joke, he's still making comedy. It's just that the distance is much shorter in time, right? Maybe long, because New Zealand is pretty far away from I don't know where he's from. Is he from the U.S. or?
I think so.
So he has a distance in terms of geography, but not in terms of time. And I guess that immediately makes a joke offensive for some people. But at least that highlights how jokes are always like mocking other people's tragedies.
Okay. Well.
So I find that interesting that he's now analyzing that whole situation. And of course, if someone is so offended that they will issue a death threat, right? I would be offended if someone issued me a death threat, right? So
Yeah.
how do we deal with that? Because I don't know if death threats are actually against the law. So
Yeah,
it
they
is. So if you're doing something that technically is legal, if you have freedom of speech to say jokes like this, and then you start crossing the line yourself by doing a death threat, then where does this end, right?
Yeah.
But a very interesting choice of joke. I definitely see how this joke is offensive. Not today, because I guess this guy, this shark story was at least 6 years ago. At least that's when this clip was posted.
Yeah.
But in the moment, right? In the moment, is tough to swallow.
Yeah. I think there's also a difference between the shark joke itself and this part of the show, which in retrospective tries to target the death threats.
Mm-hmm.
This is it's not anymore about the sharks themselves. It's about this death threat. People taking it so serious that they apparently consider killing a person.
Yeah, and of course some death threats are just meant to, make you feel uncomfortable and make you stop, to shut you up, to censor you. But others are serious, and we have seen with some cartoonists in France, they have been targeted and killed because of some cartoons that were meant to be a joke.
Yeah.
So in a way, being a comedian these days has become a high-risk job. Not only because you can lose your job, your friends, or whatever, receive death threats, but because people can actually kill you and attack you. So if we would still go by the Bill Burr joke on the military, that the higher, people who fly planes into war and so on are heroes, and those who just help them land are not considered heroes. But in this case, the comedian's job is higher risk than ever before, and they are getting more into a hero status for bringing up topics and making us talk about it and learn and discuss them, right? Just because they are the ones who take the heat, not us. We're just here in a basement in the school doing a podcast and just thinking about things and agreeing or disagreeing on the offensiveness of jokes. But those are the people who get the death threats and have their names publicly exposed. So in my mind, that's heroic in a way, even if I'm not laughing at their jokes. Honestly, I wasn't, but I'm still learning something from it. Yeah. So those are interesting choices that you had, and I brought similar ones. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. I guess we will keep paying attention to these comedians and see what they craft in the future. And I hope you listeners also have strong opinions, or at least developed some new opinions about how you feel in relation to the limits of comedy, to freedom of speech, and what some people might be considering offensive or not. And we wish you a good day.